First of all, thank you all for your endurance to be able to, this has been a long conference, a very good conference, but I know as we get later in the day, you can see the attrition a bit in terms of people, in terms of energy. But what I would ask that Steve was mentioning is, if you wouldn't mind, and it's always good to get a little exercise, if we could start from the edges and maybe move a little bit towards the center, if you wouldn't mind. So if you're on an outer table, I would ask that you would move to a table closer in, and maybe sit by somebody that you don't know, that you haven't met yet. So guys, if you wouldn't mind, just take 30 seconds and kind of move a little bit towards the center. As Steve was mentioning, in terms of this particular panel, I'm very privileged to be able to moderate it. It's called, obviously, When Women Thrive, Lessons from Women Leaders. And in particular, it's who are not afraid to think differently and to lead differently. So we really wanted to build on some of the experiences that we've had with SEED, working with a variety of entrepreneurs, always conscious in terms of sometimes the challenges that we face in terms of gender equality in the environments where we're operating, but even back home in the United States and every other part of the world. And so we wanted to take this opportunity to really highlight some of the women leaders that we have inside and outside of SEED who are really doing some amazing work. And we just thought that this would be a great opportunity for them to share some of their experience, some of their strength, maybe some of their hope, to basically help us create a kind of a conversation around women in leadership positions. And the way I really want to run this panel, partly for my own energy and the energy of our participants, is to really make it a little bit more of a discussion. So I have a few questions probably to get things started, and then I actually have a couple of maybe activities for you who are in the crowd to make this a little bit more interactive. So I thought I would start by doing, before I have each of them say basically a 1 to 2 minute pitch at most in terms of who you are, maybe a little bit about your journey, and one thing that you're probably most proud of. So you can think about that in the meantime. As a kind of a backdrop, I wanted to share something that I read most recently by the Pew Research Foundation. So this is a bit American-centric, but bear with me, but it came out, the survey last year. So I want to read 2 paragraphs to you. It says, this is a 2015 survey on gender equality. According to the majority of Americans, women are every bit as capable of being good political leaders as men. The same can be said of their ability to dominate the corporate boardroom. And according to a new Pew Research Center survey on women in leadership, most Americans find women indistinguishable from men in key leadership traits, such as intelligence, capacity for innovation, and with many saying they're actually stronger than men in terms of being compassionate and organized leaders. So why then are women in short supply at the top of government and business in the United States in particular, and maybe even extrapolate to the region? According to the public, at least, it's not that they lack toughness, management chops, or proper skill sets. Instead, topping the list of reasons, about 4 in 10 Americans point to a double standard for women seeking to climb to the highest levels of either politics or business, where they have to do more than their male counterparts to prove themselves. Similar shares say that the electorate in the corporate America are just not ready to put more women into top leadership positions. So that's just something to consider as a backdrop to this conversation as we get into other areas. So in no particular order, we'll start at the end, right, Anna, and kind of go down. If you could just take a minute or 2 just to describe who you are, maybe a little bit about your company, and in terms of your journey, one thing that you're most proud of.
Hello everybody, my name is Mariyana, and I'm a creator and director of Cleantech Bulgaria. What about my journey? Basically, I graduated economics in Germany. This was in 2007. And in that year, the Bulgarian economy here was really, let's say, developing very well. And there were a lot of economic relations and projects who were really going very actively developed in Bulgaria in that moment. So with a group of German experts, I started working on one project related with business incubation, technology centers, technology parks. And I came back in Bulgaria together with that initiative. In 2010, the initiative was cancelled because of the crisis, because of the lack of investments and all the story around behind that fact with the crisis and the let's say, the negative economic effects that happened. And in 2010, I decided to create Cleantech Bulgaria because I was inspired very much by the environmental friendly technologies, and in the same time really developing opportunities for startups and innovative businesses that can really solve some issues related to the environment and bring profit to the business. So this is who I am, and really few words about the organization and what happened in the last 5-7 years.
Excellent. Thank you, Mariyana. Anne?
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invite. A huge thank you to the guys who actually stayed in this room, who wants to talk about female leadership. It means a lot to me personally, because I think this is really a debate about diversity. So who am I? I am a serial social entrepreneur. I studied at a university in Denmark called the Kjær Pilots. Only 30 students get in every year, and we study social innovation and entrepreneurship. The main value of the school is to be a risk taker, and it's also the people that get into the course are all risk takers, and we can see that 30% of the people come out start their own businesses. My career path has been, I went immediately into consulting out of university, work with corporate social responsibility for the likes of Samsung Electronics and Coca-Cola, looking at how large corporations can do good in this world. But on this side, I always had this passion for really having an impact. And 10 years ago, I started my first enterprise, social enterprise called Kids Have a Dream, where I started collecting dreams from teenagers all around the world. They make them into drawings, and I then created exhibitions talking to young people about what do they want for themselves and their friends in the future. I then went on and I started the Berlin Peace Innovation Lab in collaboration with Stanford University. Have been running that for 3 years in Berlin, building up a network of social entrepreneurs and people working in technology. As a part of that effort, we are now, I think, 1,600 people who are interested in this topic. We then started thinking, what are the social challenges in Berlin that we can start tackling together? And we did what we call a design thinking process early on in this year, starting to look specifically at the refugee crisis and 1.1 million Syrians specifically that were arriving in Berlin at the time. And one of the 4 ideas that has actually gone through and been implemented now was to build a programming school teaching refugees to code. Because in Germany right now, there's 43,000 available jobs only in the IT sector. And it's a very open environment. Mostly you need to just be able to speak English and code, of course. So we could really see that there was a huge opportunity for Syrian refugees to get skilled training and then hopefully land a job towards the end of our course. We started in February, so we're very, very new, but we're looking to build a model that can scale all across Europe.
Great, thank you.
Hello, everyone. Background, I'm afraid I'm a PhD in econometrics. The joke is really actually true, but I'm thinking what to say about myself is that the biggest challenge that I've faced the last few years is, together with the team that I am lucky to be in, is trying to run the president's office as a startup company, or rather as a conglomerate of startup companies. And it has been quite a journey. I think we've accomplished quite, not as much as we wanted actually, but quite a lot. And it's been very, very educational for me as well. By background, I'm European. My dad's Polish, my mom's Bulgarian. I grew up in Syria and Lebanon, and I used to work for the World Bank. Over there, I was in charge of actuarial analysis and designing pension systems, including in the Maldives, out of all countries. And then I used to work for the RAND Corporation in Los Angeles and in Cambridge. And we were doing health information technology, quality of care, and that kind of boring monetary things. If I would have to summarize what I truly believe in when it comes to leading, it truly is only this: learn the rules and then break them.
Thank you. Elizabeta?
What a great company, great ladies, yes. Thank you for the invite. My name is Elizabeta. It's not so hard to pronounce it, but my friends call me Betty, so it might be much easier. And it's funny because here I represent Croatia, but actually I was born and raised in Macedonia. And okay, let's start. I own 2 companies. PutujBolje in English means a better way of travel. So I help people, my clients, to travel better, safer, and in much more convenient way. The other company that is really interesting, it's Čuvar sjećanja on Croatian. That's hard to pronounce, I agree. Guardian of memory in English, and it's grave tending service. Yes, you've heard it. Correct. Grave tending service. Yes, is the eyebrow effect. So when I'm explaining about this business that I'm building it, is wow, yeah. We provide packages to our clients. You know, there are several aspects of that migration. For example, it's an ongoing process in the world. So, for example, I live in Croatia, but my mother's grave is in Macedonia. So I can hire somebody to maintain the grave of my mother. So, guardian of memory, and we really guard the memories of our clients.
Thank you.
I would not say much more of my company because you've heard a lot already. Of my background, this is really like a slalom, my background, because I am also a PhD, but in historical linguistics. So that's where I started, and I started working as a I'm specialized in ancient Middle Persian. So I started working as a researcher at the university, but then I discovered that my underlying mission forever, which is give more information, enable people to understand more, giving them more information, available information and knowledge, was not the same goal that my university was pursuing, in fact. And so I said, okay, so I will do something else. And after an MBA, I started working for media groups. And I've been working for media groups until 14 years ago. And the idea in these media groups was exactly doing that, taking over impossible projects like launching an internet project in 1995 and make it profitable. So these kind of projects, and then 14 years ago I started to work for the company that I've been talking for before. So the only thread in my life which has been changing jobs, countries, business area, is to enable people grow, giving them more and more information.
Thank you, Maria. Well, one issue I wanted to ask you all about, at SEED, this organization that's doing this conference, we believe a lot in the power of human capital, and that's really the driver of business growth, along with obviously the other financial tools that are needed. And one of the things that we have, I can't say uniquely figured out, but something that we have really focused on a lot is the power of a peer community, and also the power of mentorship, having someone who's a little bit ahead of that can kind of show you the way. So in no particular order, I'd like to start maybe with Anne. Maybe you could tell me a little bit about, have you ever had a mentor at some point in your career that either helped guide you in terms of some decision making or in terms of maybe your own career path?
I've had several,
okay,
and I
good.
still keep having several. Some are women who have been working in business, and then I can talk to them about motherhood, about sort of more private topics, and how to combine private and business. There are others who are hardcore businessmen who can, focus my mind on building the right business model. So I've kind of selected people that I, on a personal level, connect with, but they have a very specific focus in order to build skills that I want to become better at.
Excellent. And Mariyana?
I do think that everybody has its own mentors in life or in business. And of course, I also had such, and I still have such, people who I really admire. But I would say that for me personally, I was very aware what I really want. So basically in the beginning was what I really don't want. And with the time I got to the level like start understanding what I would like to have in my life, in my personal, in my professional life. And probably something very important for me is also that I really don't divide the professional and the personal life. So for me, my passion, my desire to create new things, it's just in the both fields. And I do live one life, so I don't like to divide things. And I'm from the people who really like to see the whole path as one, and of course trying to balance between them. So
Thanks.
This is probably something about the general, let's say, objective or something.
Maybe Elizabeta, did you talk about a mentor or perhaps even a role model for you that was there?
A role model, yes. Richard Branson is my role model, and since he haven't answered my email, really, I have sent him, yes, it's a funny story also. So I chose to mentor, and two of them at least. And I missed the opportunity to say that for those two businesses, PutujBolje, the tourist agency and the grave tending service business, I was elected as a female entrepreneur in Croatia, and also Guardian of Memory won the contest in the States, maybe you have heard, for International Franchising Association, among the 20 best projects worldwide. So actually now I have third mentor from the States, maybe you've heard, it's director of Molly Mate from the States, yes, Meg Roberts. So because I want to franchise it as a franchise model, and I'm happy to learn from the best.
Excellent, excellent. For my next question, actually, Dr. Vilamovska started to answer it. But before I asked the panel, actually, again, I told you I wanted to make this a bit more interactive. I have a challenge, a task for the audience. So this is the question I'm going to ask our panelists, but I'd also like you to answer it as well. So the question, or questions, is the following. What have been some of the greatest challenges you faced in your professional life, and how did you overcome that challenge? Now, I think at this point, what I'd like you to do at your tables is maybe create either groups of 3 or 4. You can kind of figure out how you want to do it. Maybe talk amongst yourselves, introduce yourselves if you don't know each other, and take about 8 to 10 minutes to basically share who you are, your main leadership challenge, and how you overcame it, so that the other 3 or 4 understand exactly what that challenge was and how you did it. So if you could just take the next, let's say, 8 minutes and find a table if you're only there by yourself, and then share with 3 or 4 people who are in your immediate vicinity. And this is across the board, men and women, whatever challenges you faced. Thanks. So I'll keep the clock. We'll be back here in 8 minutes. And I would encourage you, if you want, to either maybe take a seat at the tables with each one of the tables, and then we'll come back and regain in 8 minutes. Well, the point of this exercise, besides getting you to network and meet somebody new, is also to work on a skill that my mother taught me when I was very young. My mother, God rest her soul, I should think about your service for the grave. She used to tell me, son, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You should listen twice as much as you speak. I can't say that I always followed that advice, but it did force me to realize that I could learn more from other people and process that before I went to take actions myself. And leading as a matter of example, and then I would ask each of you to do the following. Repeat what I do. Is at my table, we had 4 different people, and I met 4 different people with 4 different challenges. But in the sake of being efficient, I will mention Genka. Is that correct? Genka? Yes, in terms of your pronouncing your first name. And Genka is the manager for Zeta Forms. And Genka comes from a banking background here in Bulgaria, had worked her way up through all the a bank here in Bulgaria to having most of the positions. And then her biggest challenge was moving out of a kind of a structured corporate environment to then becoming an entrepreneur, doing 3D scanning, 3D printing, which is also very new customer acquisition, kind of how to build your brand. So she took that great leap of faith of becoming an entrepreneur. You know, that's a big challenge that I think many people in this room can identify with. I would just like you to maybe, instead of talking about your challenge, maybe you could mention a challenge from someone you met. Maria.
I had a very interesting conversation. One of my fellow speakers is an American girl. Don't ask me the names, but shout your name. Kjær. Kjær is leading an NGO, and she's helping people that have been victim of, can I say, slavery? That have been grabbed, brought somewhere else, abused or used as slaves in some areas, to be able to come back, rehabilitate, and either get a job or go back to their families. We didn't talk about her personal challenge, although she's moving from one country to the other, so I guess that this is already a challenge in itself. But I think that she's got many challenges every day, helping these people really go back to life. I've been fascinated by this example.
Okay, maybe actually we'll leapfrog to Anne-Marie.
On my table, we had a very interesting lady who shared of her experience, something that I found very inspirational, that when she reached her early 50s, she decided that this is not the type of setting that she would like to continue working in. So she completely changed the industry and the function that she has. And now 4 years later, she says that she's very happy. And to me, this is a wonderful example. She also shared something that, going back to our previous conversation about mentors, that we speak of mentors typically of people who are older and senior. She and I, we have a common story. I like learning from the younger ones, because they are an eye-opening exercise of where you're not doing so well, and actually, if you want to rethink what you're trying to address, there's no better way than finding someone 10 years younger than you and saying, okay, now you structure that, let's see. So in terms of challenges, yes, never compromise on issues that are important to you on a personal level.
Excellent. I might leapfrog one more time to Mariyana.
Okay, thank you. On my table, I had just two groups, let's say, of great ladies. The first one was of 3 great students in the field of journalism and PR. And for them, the Today conference is one great challenge for their personal and professional life, because they said that it's their first time being on such high-level conference, all in English. So for them, this is something new, and it's a challenging task. And the other 2 ladies, I was really very impressed by their story, because they're a group of 4 ladies who started a startup business a few years ago, working before that 13 years in the research. So I do believe that they had a lot of challenges in the period, and we just discussed about the balance between the professional challenges and the personal one, like a woman who is also a mother, wife, and all the other social tasks and roles that we have in our lives. And basically they brought me to one very important also idea about myself, and probably something that it's again on the border between professional and personal, but I'm married and I don't have children. So for a working woman and in the early 30s, this is a challenge. And probably in front of me right now, it's also this challenge to decide about when and how to balance between being a mother, being a director of my company, and being myself, because this is also important. So, yeah.
Excellent, excellent.
Some really challenging questions.
I have a question for, I'd like to hear Anne and Elizabeta answer, in no particular order, so either one of you can decide who wants to go first. Do you think that you've faced any unique challenges in your career because you are a woman? And if so, how did you address that challenge? How did you overcome it? Or not?
So I was born in Denmark, and I've spent a lot of my life in Scandinavia, and I think we have great examples of equality there. So I've been absolutely blessed with very little discrimination. I would only say actually on the opposite. It's been a huge advantage. I had one very interesting conversation with Deutsche Telekom, and they'll hate me for saying this, but the only time that I have actually faced something where it really triggered something in me was coming to a big innovation conference, and when I walked in through the reception, the guy in the reception asked me, "Oh, are you here as a caterer?" And it was just the first impression that I got, and of course when I walked into the room, it was a room full of men in their 50s in suits, and I just felt like from the very beginning when I walked into the room, I didn't feel welcome. And I know that the man in the front, they were lacking a caterer, and she probably was my age as well, and probably looked somewhat like me. But, you know, it just wasn't all that pleasant, and it's just a shame. It's a lost opportunity to engage and make, especially young women, feel welcome, even it's in these kind of environments, because we do want to drive diversity, and there's a huge value in having different voices in the room. And people... We really need to think about what is the first point of contact, and even if it's a guy at the front desk, he also needs to understand about diversity and how to make women feel welcome.
Excellent. Elizabeta?
No, the answer is no. And maybe somebody tried, but I just don't pay attention to it, because I think that one is entrepreneur or it isn't. And it's by accident that I'm trapped in a women's body. So, no, I really didn't have, until now, any challenges or difficulties because I'm a woman, and lucky.
Okay. Excellent, excellent. Maybe any of our other panelists have any experiences that were... Maria?
I come from a family where, except from my mother, everybody is a man for generations. So I was the only woman born in this environment. So there was a statistical less probability to be raised like a woman. My first job was in the Bankers Association. So there were only men in the 50s in their suit, as you described. So, and going forward, the situation was always very similar. So I've lived in myself like a dichotomy for a long time. I've been raised in my life with a male model. I've been raised in my career from men, so I know how to play by those rules. And at a certain point, when I became much older, I recognized that there was a fracture in myself. And consciously, I tried to see where was the breaking point, and could I turn it around and behave in a different way. So accepting one part of me that I had forgotten simply, when I was working, of course, forgotten simply because I was not used to use it.
Excellent. I think a comment that I believe Anne just made is one that's backed up by a lot of data that talks about just the diversity within leadership, whether it be by gender, whether it be by experience, ethnicity, oftentimes leads to a much more positive result for a corporation or an organization, just because they're getting very different points of view towards a common goal. I have a question for you, but I think I'd also like to highlight an example within SEED, if you don't mind. The question is, is in your view, what needs to change in order for there to be more women leaders? And before you answer that, in terms of across industries, I'd like to give you an example. That I've learned that sometimes right actions lead to right thinking, not always the opposite. And within SEED, I don't know if you know this, but more than half of the SEED leadership are women, including in Morocco and Tunisia, which are very predominantly, obviously, Muslim countries, and where most of our membership tend to be men. Both of our SEED directors are women. And the advantage that I saw in that, besides just they were very highly qualified for the position, the right people to do it, great networks, all the resume items, they had the ability to recruit women entrepreneurs in ways and places that, in general, I don't want to stereotype everyone, most men did not have the ability to go after. And if I may, I don't mean to embarrass you, Wafa, but would you come here for a second? Wafa Maklouf is not only our SEED director. Come on up on stage for a moment. I'll give you my seat. No, please. Take a seat, Wafa. Wafa is not only the director of SEED Tunisia. Wafa is obviously, in Tunisia, is going through a very large democratic change. When I met Wafa, she was the head of CGD, which is a French-based entrepreneurship group, which is all over North Africa and parts of sub-Saharan Africa. She had run her own, I guess, clean waste or clean disposal company, so maybe she has a lot to talk to you about, Mariyana. What else did you do? You were doing everything at that point. And most recently, came to me while she was the director of SEED and said, my country is going through a big transition. I have some other ambitions even beyond what I'm doing with SEED. And can we make this work? I want to run for parliament. And I had to think about that in terms of the business within SEED and how we would do it. There are some ramifications around that. We talked a lot about it, talked to our stakeholders about it, and they said this shouldn't be a problem because it was a part-time position, and she did, and she won, her party. And it was even recognized in Washington, D.C., it was by the Democratic Institute or National Democratic Institute, one of the premier women leaders in Tunisia. So we're very fortunate to have Wafa with us.
Thank you.
And Wafa, I guess I would ask you the same question that I asked our panels here. In your context, within your environment, have you faced any challenges that you believe just maybe because of gender rather than gender?
Thank you, Peter. I'm very honored to be with all of these women today, and to be in Bulgaria. It's my first time here, and I'm sorry about my English. It's not very, very good.
It's okay.
Sure. When we launched our own business when I was 27, I had 2 sons. I was married. It's very big challenges for me to have my own business, because my father was an entrepreneur in the same sector. So we are a competitor, but I tried to make him my mentor. So every time I'm in my phone to have the good information, have the consulting for free. And sometimes he's my banker. So sure, as a woman, it was many challenges at the same time to be good wife, good mom, good boss, and to combine all these jobs. For me, it's not very easy. But Tunisia also is living something very special. and 2011 it was transition, revolution, everything. So for me, I had a big responsibility face to what's happening in Tunisia, so I decided to be active in politics. After 10 years activities with the civil society, I want to be decider. I want to be someone who change from the inside way. So for me, it was another challenges, and to keep the stability in my office, in my entreprise, in seed also. It wasn't very, very easy. But I think that when I have the political side, the the civil society side, I probably have more information to propose the best solution for our youth, for our young future entrepreneurs, to help them to grow their own business and to create their own business. For me, it was the big challenge, and I tried to do it every day. And I'm very happy to encourage some jobless or someone who is very, very sad to have their own business. So
Excellent.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Wafa. Thank you for coming on stage for this.
Thank you.
I think another question I have, and I think, Anne, you started to touch on it a bit. I always say this from a point of view, I can only speak from my own experience, and there's a lot of self-learning that I've had to do in my own career. I think I benefited to a degree by having two sisters, one who is an entrepreneur and another who's a leader in her own industry. And it's the power of seeing that as an example of normal and due course, that's just part of life. So that I didn't consciously, I should say, distinguish. Maybe I did subconsciously. But maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the stereotypes about women leaders that you would like to dispel here. So are there any stereotypes that you see that are out there for women leaders? I'm looking right at Dr. Anna Marie here, that you would like to dispel, that you think that you've encountered and maybe in a public forum you could address.
It's rather hard after such an inspirational speech, but I will try. Mm-hmm. I think that there is a number of challenges that women in politics face, and there are a few more than women in entrepreneurship or women in business overall. There is this note that I also wanted to make, that public service and politics in general have a very negative cast and a very negative connotation worldwide. On my end, what I hope to see one day is people perceiving startup accelerators and taking that point of view and applying it to political service, mandated political service. Because the only way to truly change our society is to try and change it within. We will fail at least half of the things we try to change. But unless we do so, and unless we do so in good faith, and people of merit decide to take a mothership approach, so the way that you decide you're going to take 1 year off and have a kid, then take 2 years off and try to do public service. I think that's going to have a tremendous impact on the way we do politics and the way society runs. But it's just a random thought on my end, and apologies. Going back to your question, I think there is a very thin line between a very compassionate and soft woman leader and a true bitch on wheels, if I may say so. And it comes from rejecting the traditional alpha male model that was very dominant in the older generation and the traditional woman role, but it's also about finding who you are. What drives you? All leaders share one really serious aspect, and that is that they truly care and they truly push for what they believe in. But where does this strength come from? Is it your belief? Is it your empathy? Is it your heart? Is it your strive to prove that you can do something? find that and turn it into the best, positive, most enriching energy, the one that truly can fire up everyone around you, around an idea.
Okay. Excellent, excellent, thank you. Maybe Mariyana, do you have any particular stereotypes that you would like to dispel?
I would probably not start speaking about stereotypes because really admitting that they're existing, you're already taking part into making them become larger and bigger and so on. I do think that everybody we face in our everyday life, men or women, it doesn't matter, different type of stereotypes. From my personal point of view, let's say that I encountered a lot of situations in which I was not feeling perfectly comfortable in, but I was doing like I don't care, exactly like you said, because when you really start thinking about that and start putting arguments pro and contra and so on, it's getting worse. So that's why it's probably my own strategy in such situation was always to show what I have to say, what I believe in, and if the people would like to follow what I'm saying or will agree or disagree, it's okay. So I have no problem with that. And basically, it always worked because, and you have to accept that there will be people who will like you and people who will not like you. So in that moment, everything is okay. So
Excellent.
I do think that with the stereotypes, it's also something like that. You just have to accept they exist and to try to find a way to navigate between them. And
Sure.
yeah.
Excellent, thank you. Anne, if I may ask, what advice would you give young, ambitious men and women in this room who are trying to navigate their career paths?
Find a good first follower.
Next. You go ahead and then Maria.
When we were reflecting earlier, the one big change for me from my first two organizations to what I'm running now was that it was a one-lady show in the beginning, and I had a lot of people that I was collaborating with. But the big shift that I've been going through is really finding a really, really good co-founder, and then building the team around what we believe in. And then growing from there, and not thinking that this is a one-woman show. This is about the team and what we want to achieve together, and get the courage and the support that you need in order to achieve what you set out to do. So finding the right people to collaborate with, find people who have skills that are different from yours, but have the same core values. It's difficult, and do take time to think about who you want to found with, because you'll be stuck together for a long time. So finding the right people, but having a good co-founder, which I have now, makes a huge difference.
Excellent, thank you. Maria?
In the last, I think, 5 years, I've had fantastic experiences mentoring in the SEED organization. Really a life-changing experience also for me, because it helped me open up, creating a network around me. When I'm mentoring, people think, and always tell my mentees, they always think that I'm mentoring, and I said that they have not understood what's the ratio. They are getting one, I'm getting a much higher number every time that we have an exchange. Why I'm highlighting that? You've got in the SEED, because all of you more or less are SEED members, you got a fantastic opportunity, because the level of openness and the level of trust that you have got in this organization is something that you will rarely find anywhere else. And what is important is that through these connections that you have got between your different companies, you can make them work to get an advice, to test your ideas, to find the right people for a certain job. And I always also encourage people that we work with whom we work together is also to continuously challenge your business model every day and think, am I doing the right thing, or shall I sell? Shall I stay? Shall I change? Or shall I sell to somebody else? Or even, particularly in our region, in the southeastern region, where all the businesses are so small, always consider the opportunity to join forces with other companies that are similar to you and that are popping up around you. Because sometimes putting together people that already trust themselves could be a better business than grow many similar business of which, for example, 90% will at one point die. So this is also my advice as being in a seed networking.
Great. One last question, if Steve will indulge me. I know we're down to getting the signs, 1 minute, 2 minutes. I think maybe from my own personal perspective, I think this is, it's an important question, is what role can men play in supporting women leaders? And that's open. Any one of you can answer.
I would say not only support women, simply support talent.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I would say be great lovers, husbands, partners in crime. I couldn't do this without my boyfriend, who's also an entrepreneur at home, encouraging me. When I don't come back before midnight, he understands it, and he does prepare dinner as well. So finding the right partner is key.
I agree completely. And as a mother also, and as a wife, it means a lot when you are supported by, and I have 2 sons, and I'm happy to be able to show them that I live the passion of my life. So I'm sending the message, the right message, support your woman in the future, the love of your life. So support is the only thing. We don't need nothing else.
Great. Mariyana, did you want to say something? Or?
I think that the things to be added are getting less and less, but I do believe, in the support and also in the acceptance. So really to be enough wise to accept each other. So it's not about men or women, it's just like a personal thing between people.
Thank you. Well, I think Steve, have come to the end of our time. I would like to thank Mariyana and Anna Maria, Elizabeta, and Maria for their time and for their experience. Thank you all.